Hello, everybody. How would you like to live in a world where you don't know where your next meal will come from? You wake up feeling hopeful about the future, but if you run out of food supplies, you could lose all hope. Do you think you can survive such a situation? In our modern society, many of us feel grateful that we can go to the grocery store whenever we want and pick up any food we desire. However, several generations ago, our ancestors used to live in fear of starvation because they couldn't predict when their crops would fail, when their livestock would die. Since preserving food wasn't easy, they had to find other ways to make sure they wouldn't starve. So they came up with the idea of saving seeds. Picture a world where losing seeds meant losing tomorrow, where every grain held the promise of survival and every harvest was a chance to secure the future. Ancient people lived with this truth every single day. They didn't have vaults, metal containers, or modern science to guard what mattered most. But they had wisdom, passed from voice to ear, from hand to hand. When the fields turned golden and crops stood ready, these people saw more than food. They saw life itself, waiting to be saved, waiting to be shared with those yet unborn. So how did they protect seeds, ensuring the next season would bloom? Before we begin, please take some time to subscribe and support us. Let's jump into the video. When the time came, they didn't rush the harvest. The strongest, fullest grains were chosen first, the ones that withstood storms, the ones that stood tallest against wind. These weren't just seeds. They were champions, proof that nature had blessed them, and only these deserved to begin the next cycle. Carefully, they were separated, dried under the sun, never too long, never too little, because moisture meant death, rot, and ruin. Villagers knew the balance. Their fingers could feel when a seed was ready. Their eyes could see what modern machines might miss. But keeping seeds safe wasn't simple. They had to outsmart pests, moisture, and time itself. They turned to nature's secrets. Hollow gourds, clay pots sealed with ash or wax, or tightly woven baskets hidden high above ground. These became the cradles of the next generation's food. Some even dug cool pits, where the earth kept seeds safe, cool and dry, away from the heat and the hunger of insects. Nothing was wasted. Ash from fires acted as a shield, keeping tiny invaders away. Smoke from hearths added a layer of protection, an invisible guardian. And here's the magic. This wasn't a task for one person. Saving seeds was a village promise. Women sang as they sorted, children learned by watching, and elders told stories of the seeds' journeys. Seeds were never just stored. They were blessed, thanked, honored. Before planting again, villagers held small ceremonies, asking the land to accept what was saved and give back more than before. Every planting was an act of faith. Every harvest a celebration of that trust fulfilled. Now we understand why saving seeds is important. But do you know how it happened? During ancient times, humans used to depend on wild plants and animals for their food, clothing, and shelter. But over time, people started to cultivate their own food instead of relying on wild plants. Domestication of plants began around 14,000 years ago. People noticed that if they planted seeds from the biggest and juiciest fruits, vegetables, and grains, they would get even bigger and better yields next year. So people started to save seeds from the best fruits and vegetables for planting the following year. They also started to keep records of which seeds grew best in different climates, so that others could benefit from their knowledge. The ancient Egyptians were among the first to keep records of plant cultivation. In 3000 BC, Egyptians kept detailed records of the plants they cultivated and the seeds they saved. This knowledge helped them to ensure that they had enough food to eat and that their crops would continue to grow in the future. Ancient Egyptians kept seeds safe by storing them in baskets made of reeds or papyrus. They would put the seeds in a container and then seal it with a wax or resin to keep them fresh. They would store these containers in a dry, cool place to keep the seeds from rotting or being eaten by pests. Ancient Egyptians believed that seeds were sacred and that they should be treated with respect. They held festivals in honor of the goddess of fertility and the afterlife, and they made offerings of seeds and plants to the gods. They also believed that the pharaoh was a god, and they believed that he had a duty to take care of his people and to ensure that they had enough food to eat. So the pharaohs built granaries to store grain and other foods, and they appointed officials to distribute the food to those who needed it. The pharaohs also built irrigation systems to water their crops and to protect their fields from flooding. They also built dikes and dams to control the flow of the Nile River and to prevent damage to their crops. These efforts helped the ancient Egyptians to survive the yearly floods of the Nile River and to grow enough food to sustain their population. Besides the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Mesopotamians were also one of the first civilizations to domesticate plants and save seeds. They developed the plow and the wheel, which made it easier to plant and harvest crops. They also developed the concept of private ownership of land, which encouraged people to improve their farms and to produce more food. The ancient Mesopotamians kept seeds safe by storing them in clay jars or in underground chambers. They also used the flood irrigation method to water their crops, which helped them to grow more food and to protect their seeds from pests. As agriculture spread to other parts of the world, people continued to save seeds from the best plants and to share their knowledge with others. In India, the practice of saving seeds dates back to the Vedic period. The ancient texts of Hinduism contain references to the importance of saving seeds and to the methods that were used to store them. The ancient Indians kept seeds safe by storing them in clay pots or in bamboo tubes. They also used the seed drill, which allowed them to plant seeds more accurately and to conserve water. In Africa, the practice of saving seeds dates back thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians kept seeds safe by storing them in baskets made of papyrus or other materials. They also used techniques such as sun drying and smoking to preserve seeds. The ancient Nubians, who lived in the region of Nubia, kept seeds safe by storing them in underground granaries. They also used techniques such as winnowing and hulling to process and store seeds. The ancient Greeks and Romans also kept seeds safe by storing them in clay jars or in underground chambers. They also used techniques such as drying and grinding seeds to preserve them. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder described the process of storing seeds in his book, Naturalis Historia. He wrote that seeds should be stored in a dry place, and that they should be checked regularly for signs of pests. So that's how our ancestors saved seeds and how they evolved over time. Our ancestors' wisdom about saving seeds has helped us to sustain ourselves and our environment for generations. Their practices have taught us the importance of biodiversity, the need for sustainable agriculture, and the value of traditional knowledge. We can use their wisdom to help us face the challenges of the 21st century, such as climate change, food security, and the need for sustainable development. By learning from our ancestors and honoring their legacy, we can work towards a better future for ourselves and for the planet. What are your thoughts about this? Leave a comment below and let us know. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.